With you?
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We have a what is going on now? What is going on now?
Nothing.
Yes, it is. I can't seem to get. Oh, come on. It just doesn't seem to be. I don't know. You know what? I'm just going with it. I'm just going with it. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Like us on YouTube at Pastor Jeffrey Goodine. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. Like us on Facebook. Follow us at Church on Wheels. Let the good news roll. Facebook Live, Jeffrey Goodine. Follow us on Twitter at Goodine Jeffrey. On Instagram, Goodine Jeffrey. And Clubhouse, Church on Wheels Ministry. Thank you all for tuning in. Now it's time for TNTNT, which is Thursday Night Tidbits and Tunes with Diane. And she always has a
Tidbits?
tidbits and a tune for
And a tune.
Right.
Thank you one more time. Time is flying by. September 15th.
I know.
That's it. Well, tonight's tune is, it's called The Old Rugged Cross. And actually there's quite a few people who asked me, oh, Betty was one of them. She said, you know, Diane, you should learn that song. And so Betty, if you're watching, sorry, it took me a while. So this song is an old song. And, you know, they call it a hymn. George Bernard from Michigan. He wrote the song in 1912. He was born in 1873. He said that he did the same thing as his dad. He was a coal miner. And he also said he was converted at 24 when he attended, it says, a meeting at the Salvation Army. Then he became a pastor. He was in the ministry. He wrote over 300 songs. And he said this one here, he had a hard time with. He goes, all I saw was a cross. He said, I just saw this old rugged cross. And he said, that's all I had coming to me. And so he took it to a friend of his, Charles Gabriel in Chicago, and then he helped him put a melody and some chords to it. And he said, you know, it became one of these popular songs where there's hundreds of artists that did this song. And, you know, they all came to him, oh, you did such a good job. And he goes, no, he said, I was merely an instrument that God used. So that's, and I thought that was great. So I hope that somebody gets a blessing out of this song. I love it when you see all these tidbits come together. There's a lot of stuff on this song. You know, it'll give you a whole list of people that did it. But we're just gonna go ahead and do it. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. How I love that old cross so, in conclusion, there's so many things you can kind of grasp at from the song. And, I started Googling things. What's the definition of a cross? Well, Google, the first thing they said was, crossing the road, crossing this, crossing that. I was like, no. So second, then they had their definition. They called it an upright post with a transverse bar as used in ancient times of crucifixion. So I said, I would have thought that would have been first, but that's just my opinion. They came in with this. Okay, just think. And so there's so many things that you could kind of take from the song. And I went short and sweet. It's got a lot of power. Luke 14:27. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Amen.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen.
There's that cross.
Amen.
Thank you so much. One more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. As if you all know that.
Thank you for singing along.
Yes.
He knew the words.
that Diane, she come on. She always has a tune or a hymn for us. And why is it okay? And I appreciate her singing for us. And again, she is sent by God. I always tell her God gave her that voice to sing in this church, and she's being obedient. And again, obedience is better than sacrifice. So thank you, Diane. You always bless us with the hymn. Tonight, the call of Abram, and that's going to cover two scriptures tonight: Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 5 through 1 to 7, and then Genesis 15, 1 to 7. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse. If you want a copy of the handout, send me an email, pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. It's pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com, and I will add you to the list, and you will get a copy of the handout along with the worksheet. So if you want to follow along with us, you can tune in, invite a friend, have a watch party. Tonight, the call of Abram. And this is Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 5, and then 7, we go 1 through 7. And then Genesis 15, 1 through 7. Okay, Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 7. Anybody want to read that?
I'll read it.
Okay.
That's in the New Testament, right?
Yeah, you gotta look hard for Genesis.
You never really look hard.
Gotta look hard for Genesis now.
Wow, we went from Revelation to Genesis. That's amazing.
Nah, it's just a new start.
The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, your father's household, to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. And they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Morah at the Shechem
Okay.
At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him.
Okay. Now, I want you to know at this point here that Abram was a pagan. He was not, I guess, in that makeup. Abram was in the land of the Chaldees. They did pagan practices. So he was a pagan. So this is one of those in the Bible where we see that God uses people whom we've cast off.
We don't associate with. No.
Right. He used them, yes.
Describe the difference between pagan and Gentile.
Okay, a pagan, well, they're kind of the same in essence, because they were not of the Israelites. Okay, so the Gentiles would be considered pagans because they did pagan practices, which were to serve many gods. They did human sacrifices.
Yes, no, I see.
So when we say pagan, those are mainly their practices, pagan practices. The Gentiles were considered doing pagan practices until they believed.
Converted.
Right, until they
You
converted.
had to do it the Jewish way.
Right.
They wanted it done their way.
Their way, right, and serve their God. And so here we have Abram being called, and you know, to put it in kind of perspective, God called Abram, and Abram was a pagan from Ur, the land of the Chaldees. So that made him a pagan. So again, but there's one thing about this pagan that I want you to understand, is that when God called him, not his pagan gods that he was worshiping, not any of them, when the one true God called him, he listened. He listened. And if you read here, he's telling them to leave his land, leave everything behind, and go. And I will take care of you. And he listened. Now, that's a testament to listening to God's call. As I say, God's call is so loud that only you can hear it. And it is so soft that no one hears it but you. So when the call comes, you move. You don't question. Now the Bible doesn't say anything about whether he questioned it or not. You know, even if he did. Even if he did. He still moved. And God made a promise to him. He said, I will bless you. I will make your name great. Now this is a pagan now. Said, I'll make you into a great nation. And when you finish reading the story in the Bible, you'll see how we get there. Okay, Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15, verses 1. Yes.
These gods that they're worshiping. Okay, so we're going back a couple thousand years ago. ago. And then I was reading Acts, and it just caught my eye, because my name is Diane. And they started talking about Diana, the goddess. She had a different name in a different book that I was reading. But regardless, how does that all start? That's like all man-made, and how long, like how long before that it sounded like this goddess or whatever gods that they worship was in their lives for thousands of years.
Yes. Pagans have been following different gods. See, they had a god for
Son.
yeah, rain, sun, moon, for the crops, for fertility, you name it, they had a god for it.
Especially the
Okay.
Greeks.
So, right?
Poseidon and stuff. Yeah.
And it sounds like it goes like way back.
Yes,
Way back.
yes, yes.
It's all
Yes.
man-made.
And those gods that they are worshiping, I mean, you got some religions now that worship statues and things of that nature. Yes.
The thing they didn't realize is the one God gives you that sun, that rain, that it,
It's a
just have
gift,
to,
yes.
you just have to condense it in one. But instead they're going, okay, well that's a God for that, that's a God for that.
Right.
So it's really all coming from one
One-
God.
from one
Giving you
God.
everything, and I guess they couldn't comprehend that one God's going to give you everything.
It's going to give you everything.
Right.
So they had
That
to,
still goes on nowadays.
Yes,
You
that's
have
true.
some people that don't believe in what we're talking about.
Right.
But they'll go, to a moon party or
yeah,
whatever
Yes.
party they got out there.
yes, yes,
Strange.
yes. Even today there are religious sects, religious groups that worship different gods. And, that's just their belief. Well, I believe in the one true God, and they believe in multiple gods for multiple things, and, that's their belief.
A good example of a pagan holiday would be Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, most
And I
of
see
the,
it
most of
more. I see it
the
more
church's
now.
holidays were pagan holidays that were converted.
Yeah, and there are a lot of our holidays now that have some pagan practices within it. Like Easter time and at Christmas, the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is a pagan, it has been associated with paganism.
Going broke could be paganism.
Yeah. They've got a lot of things
It should start anytime, yes.
that they got a lot of gods and a lot of things that were in pagan practices that people bring with them when they convert. And so that was one of the things that Paul talked about, which was when the people converted, that they were bringing these things with them and allowing these things to grab hold inside the church. And these things have been, is what was addressed in Revelation, that this is how the churches have come this far. Look at where you are. I mean, the world used to be a distance from the church, but now the world is sitting at the church door, waiting, and a couple times, a little bit, it creeps inside the church, but you can recognize it when it comes in the church. So what the world has done is it's come to the church door and waiting for the Christian, wannabe Christian, somebody say you should be Christian, to come outside. When they come outside, now the world's got you. And like I said before, as a Christian, wannabe Christian, or somebody say you should be a Christian, the hardest thing to do is to live in this world without going to the grocery store, without going to the gas station, and without stopping at a stoplight. Those are things that are of the world. So you have to be very careful that you don't get caught up in the world. Because, as I say, the world got something for you. It'll chew you up, spit you out, and send you home crying to your mama. It will do that to you. So, what we have here is we have a pagan that listened when God called. And for him to uproot himself, his family,
It was loud.
that call was loud, but he was the only one that heard it.
Right.
And it was so soft that nobody else heard it. So they were like, can you imagine them going, what, Abram? We're
Where are you
going,
going?
where? And Abram is saying, I don't know. He just told me, I got this thing. He said, head east. And I'm going. And y'all coming with me. So that is, think about it, that's where we are now. Okay, Genesis 15, 1 through 7. Okay, I'll read that. This is the Lord's covenant with Abram. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Elijah of Damascus? And Abram said, you have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it. Now this is the covenant. They called it the Abram covenant, but eventually you're going to come to the Abraham covenant. But here is the covenant that God made with Abram, that I will be your shield. Now Abram has concerns because he is childless and he is of age and his wife is of age. What we would say past childbearing
Way past.
age. But God made a covenant to him, said, your son, your heir, will be a son of your own flesh and blood. And then he showed him outside. See, now I want you to look. If you look up at the stars, if you can count the stars, he said, if you can count the stars, that will be your offspring. So this is the covenant that God made with Abram. And you know, eventually his name is changed to Abraham, but that's another Bible study. But here we're talking about the call of Abram. Now, the call of Abram, he was a pagan. And he listened. So now that puts us Christians, want to be Christians, or somebody say you should be a Christian, listening to God's call. He's calling. Are we listening? Are we listening? That's something you have to answer. I can't answer that for you. So, the key verse is Genesis chapter 12, verse 7. And, come on. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring, I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. And I want to talk a little bit more about him building that altar there. And this was not a pagan altar. The background. After the flood narrative, this is Genesis 6 to 10. chapter 6, the text lists the descendants of Noah's son Shem. And you'll see that in Genesis chapter 11, verses 10 to 25. This is the genealogy culminated with Terah, the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran, who is the father of Lot. Today's scripture highlights the family of Abram, when it said God would later change his name to Abraham, and they'll see that in Genesis 17 and 5. So you see that there's a genealogy of Noah's son Shem. And you get to Terah, who is the father of Abram. So now, one thing I want you to see here out of this is Noah was a righteous man following God, but throughout his genealogy, some of the children left. And now we get to Terah, who is the father of Abram. He is now living in a pagan nation.
So everything his father taught him and all the floods that he witnessed, he walked away from.
All of that through the genealogy.
Wow.
The things that Shem told his children and their children, and then all those things passed down through generations. And when it get to Terah, you see that Terah now lives in a pagan nation. But God never forgot about it. God picked one. So see, no matter how far we stray away, no matter how far you stray away, God will always call you back. As I say, you can't run. You can run, but you can't hide. You can run all you want, but you can't hide. You know, it is what it is. So, yes.
I know this is totally different than what you're on. I just happen to be in Acts reading that lately, and I didn't know if Acts, the word Acts, means anything.
No, it's the Acts of the Apostles,
Acts
of the Apostles.
Action of.
Right.
Okay.
It talks about the
That's
Apostles.
what I meant. I thought, okay.
Yeah, when you see the book of Acts really says the act of the apostles.
Okay.
And so it talks about the apostles,
Yes.
and apostles talks about their lives
Yes.
in the book of Acts.
And that's by Luke recounting. That's Luke recounting.
Yes.
Okay.
The Acts of the
Yes,
Apostles,
because he
yes.
says at the beginning, he goes, "This is like my."
Yeah, he's writing
letter.
to Theophilus.
Yes. In my first letter, I told you. So yes, he continues.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So this is, the book of Acts can be the continuation of his gospel. When you see the Gospel of Luke.
Okay. Oh, yes.
So this would be, so the book of Acts could be like
Luke 2 kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Right. So, we have the call announced, Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 5. And this is, the Lord has said to him, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." Now, to the land I will show you. He ain't told him yet where he's going now. He hasn't told him yet. He just say, "Listen, I'll make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you." So we'll be blessed through him. That's why the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes were always saying, "Our father Abraham," because they were calling Abraham as a father, and they were saying that because we are of the offspring of Abraham, we are already destined. And Jesus told them, no, they weren't. Because even though they say they are the father of Abraham, look at what they were doing. Look at what they were doing. Everything against God, the one true God. But they were saying, as long as I am of the linkage of Abraham, then I got a seat in the kingdom. And Jesus told them, no. Look at what you're doing. That's why Jesus had mentioned to him that you clean the outside of the cup, but the inside of the cup is still dirty. So we see here that the Lord addresses Abram. Now the Lord addresses him in a call, an instruction. God gave him instructions. He said, go from your country, your people, and your father's household. Leave. Go here. And he promises a childless Abram. Abram didn't have any children. That he would become a great nation. Now, Abram did not have any children. So he's thinking, how can there be an offspring of mine and I don't have any? I'm childless. Well, he promised that he would be a great nation, and blessings would result if Abram obeyed. Now, in what ways has God provided blessings for you? We don't have that much time in Bible study. Okay, so how might believers live in a way that blesses their unbelieving family and friends? Now, if you want to think about it, Abram was a blessing to people that weren't. That were still pagans. Lot was still a pagan. His wife Sarah was still a pagan. So how do we live that blesses our unbelieving family and friends? I say we live in a way that that Jesus Christ shows through us. Now that's very hard in this world. I'm telling you now. That's very hard. We have to live a good life. We have to live a life that when people see us, they see Jesus.
It's like that song, This Little Light.
Yeah, they see your light.
It starts with a little light.
Right. It starts with a little light, and people see it. They see it. Now, there's something about you, the way you live, and that will determine to other people. Remember, God uses you, He blesses you to exalt you to them, to show them who He is. If you can follow that. The Lord blesses you and exalts you in their eyes so that they will know who He is. They want to know who your God is. They want to know who your God is. Now, Abram's response in verse 4 to 5. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife, Sarah, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. And they arrived there. They went out to somewhere where God sent them. All of the people, these are his maids and stewards and things of this nature. Abram obeyed and left the city of Haran with his wife Sarah. He allowed Lot his nephew to go with him.
Now, Pastor, was Lot married at this time or no?
No, no.
Okay.
They didn't show him being married. They
Yeah.
didn't talk about it. But now remember that Lot got in a Lot and Abram, what became Abraham. They didn't really, they left together, but they didn't really stay together. Lot got in some trouble.
Yeah, he went to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, well, he got in some trouble before that, and Abraham got him out.
Yep.
So that's that, the troublesome nephew that you allowed to come in, and he's just always in trouble. Well, that was Lot.
Trying to help out, but
Right,
he's
yeah,
getting back in.
right, yes. Now, they journeyed to the land of Canaan. Now, how can believers ensure their obedience to God's commands? How can we ensure our obedience to God's command? I say, listen. Listen, he'll tell you what to do, where to go, how to do it. Now, it might not be the way you want it done, might not be the way you want to go, but he will direct it when you listen. And it's amazing sometimes, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, congregation, anybody hear me. You know that time that you've traveled a regular route all the time. But this one time, something told you to turn left. And that would have taken you, if you take that left, that would take you 5 miles out of the way you want to go. But you listened to take that left. And when you got down there that left, there was somebody down there for you to talk to. Somebody down there for you to meet. Now, I'm going to tell you, now I'll tell it to the day that I was on my way to a meeting. I left home late to get to the meeting. Left home late. On the way to the meeting, something told me to go by the gas station. I go by the gas station. There's this van over there with all these old ladies, like church ladies. I think the youngest one probably was 65, the youngest. And they were standing around looking at the van. And they had a flat tire. And I came over and I said, y'all need them to say, yeah, our tire flat and we on our way. I don't know if it's going somewhere. I said, okay, I'll change tire. Now I'm already late for the meeting now.
Now you got a good excuse.
I stopped, I changed their tire for them in the van. They tried to give me some money. I was telling them thank you for them to get on. I made sure that they got back on the highway and was headed in their direction. And I got on and I went on to the meeting. I was said, you know, I'm going. I pull up into the parking lot of the place, nobody. Door locked. I said, I missed the meeting. So I turned and driving out the parking lot. Here comes this car. So I'm looking at them. I stopped, rolling the window down. Mr. Brother Goodine, where you going? I said, I missed the meeting. I said, no, the meeting ain't even started yet. You the first one. I said, what? I said, I left home late. I had to go by and I changed these ladies' tire. And when I got to the meeting, I was the first one at the meeting. Nobody else was there.
Well, with daylight savings time, you're working through.
And I left. And I was leaving. And then there's so many parking lot. I said, Brother Goodine, the meeting ain't start yet. So I knew that I listened and I went by that gas station. I was supposed to change them ladies' tire for them. Nobody else was. They was off to the side. I was there to change their tire. And I listened. And I listened. Now, after that, I wasn't listening too many times, but now I'm listening more. Right now, I'm listening more. And so, when God makes the call, you listen. Now, I put here, what is the connection, if any, between obedience to God and resulting blessings from him. Well, look, you ought to know that. That's a loaded question. You know that when you are obedient and you listen to God's commands, there are blessings beyond your wildest dream. Beyond your wildest dream. He'll give you stuff you didn't even ask for. You didn't even ask for.
Well, it'll give you better stuff than you did ask
Right, better stuff than you did ask for. Yeah, stuff that you. And so, it said Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who appeared to him. Now, this is again God's declaration to him. Abram's obedience brought him to a new land and a new interaction with God, with the Lord. A new interaction. He would become a great nation through his descendants, which is his seed, and the land of Canaan. So he's showing him the land. He's showing him the land that he's going to. That is going to be his foundation for his offspring. He built a new altar announcing the focus of his worship to the one true God. Now, when he said he built an altar there, this was not a pagan altar. Remember, he was a pagan. He built an altar there to the God that appeared to him, not to a pagan God. He built an altar to show focus of his worship. And his worship is to the one true God. How can believers tangibly remember and celebrate God's work? How can we celebrate God's work? Do we build an altar to him? And see here, I put here, see Exodus 28 to 11, Joshua chapter 4, and 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 to 25. Tangible things. Now, if you notice in Joshua, once they crossed, Joshua took 12 stones and built an altar to God. How do we show? Now, here he built an altar to show his focus of worship. Now, we rent space here for this church. We don't have a building. I don't know. People ask me, are you looking for a building? I don't know. God hasn't told me yet. When it's time to move, we'll move. We could be the light or the only light here in this building. We are here for a reason. And I'm going to tell everybody this. I done seen it. I done synced it. I'm telling you. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, congregation, anybody can hear me. There's going to come a time that God's going to show his face in here. He's going to show everybody. He's going to make a believer out of everybody in this church. I'm going to tell you how. One day, all of the lights in this area is going to be out. The only light that's going to be on is the light in this church. I'm going to say that again. God's going to make a believer out of everybody in this church. In the surrounding areas, all of the lights are going to be out. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be no storm or something. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that all of the lights are going to be out. And the only light that's going to be on is in this church. And they're going to ask, how come you all are the only ones with lights? And nobody else in here got lights. And I'm going to tell you, You ask God that question. And I'm telling you, he's going to make a believer out of everybody in this church. He's going to make a believer. I've seen it. That's why I can say it. And I truly believe it. That this building, this room that we're in, is a light to a lot of people. You all are tuning in on the airwaves. This building, this room, this church is a light. And God is going to make a believer out of everybody in this church. He's going to do it. All of the in the surrounding areas, I don't know how far the areas, and said, I don't know and I don't care. I know that all of the lights will be out, and this room will be the only light in the area.